Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Jared here with another concert review. This one is for Guns N' Roses in Belgium, August 24th, 2002, or as I like to call it, fucking Pukkelpop. So, once again, another 2002 concert. I just did a review on the Columbus, Ohio concert. So this one was a little bit before that, a few months before, a little bit earlier in the year. This was when GNR was overseas, not in North America, obviously. And yeah, this is right around the time of the MTV Video Music Awards, and when GNR was getting back on tour and Hasselt was back on tour with this new band of Buckethead and Robin Fink and Tommy Stinson, Richard Fortus, Brain, still had Dizzy, got Chris Pittman in there. Man, am I leaving anyone out? So many players on this team. And I just love this band. I can't stress that enough. Such a fascinating time for Guns N' Roses history. Man, it was really centered around Hasselt. I can't stress that enough. But yeah, the Chinese Democracy Tour. And I went ahead and I've never, from what I remember, watched this show from start to finish back in the day when I was in the height of my GNR fandom, the peak of it, back in like the middle 2000s, a few years after this happened. But I definitely did watch some stuff from this concert back then, and there were definitely some notable moments, and I want to share those with you all. So I went ahead and threw this bootleg concert up on YouTube once again. So fortunate that we're able to watch these archived concerts and just take them all in. Obviously, watching it on video is never going to compare to actually being there. Man, it must have been insane to be there. But I'm just very grateful that we have the opportunity to still relive these concerts, even if it's through the lens of a camera and a video, things of that nature. So this one's definitely a little bit different than Columbus. I would start with Axl's appearance. On the North American leg later in the year, I talked about how Hasselt wasn't wearing a bandana around this time anymore. This Pukkelpop concert is when he was wearing the bandana, and he was wearing that black number 80 jersey, once again, like the same one that he wore during the 2002 VMAs. That's what he wore through a lot of this concert. Later in the concert, he actually flipped it to a white number 80 jersey with black numbers, so he kind of got the home and away jersey going on there. But this footage was interesting because, like, when I saw clips of this concert back in the day, I remember only seeing video board footage that somebody recorded from the crowd. This particular video I saw on YouTube had some of that, but most of it was recorded from the crowd, and it was just of the stage. So I don't know if there are two different sources of this concert, or maybe I was just mistaken, and maybe I just happened to see some of the video board recorded footage of this same source. But it was definitely very interesting to go back and watch this concert. So this is a festival. They were doing some festivals overseas around this time. I think about like the Leeds Festival. They did that one. That was a very notable concert too. So let's go ahead and just kind of go through the set list here. And very standard set list for 2002 GNR. Started with Welcome to the Jungle. They did It's So Easy, Mr. Brownstone, Live and Let Die, the Wings cover. And once again, you have this new band, but a lot of the old material is present in the set list, especially in the first part of the show. But I want to talk about Live and Let Die, and I mentioned this in my other review. I can't stress enough how awesome the Live and Let Die screams are back in the day during these shows. They were just so much fun to watch, especially during this show. I really love the Live and Let Die screams. They were very raspy and reminiscent of old Hasselt, but on top of that, he even threw in Belgium in there in the scream, to the point that I actually cut that clip and I put it on some of my social media stories just because I thought it was so awesome that he mentioned Belgium by name in those Live and Let Die screams. So if you're watching this review and you want to go back and maybe watch some of the clips from that concert, if you don't feel like watching the whole thing, definitely check out those Live and Let Die screams. Absolutely epic for sure. So after Live and Let Die, we're going to move on to Think About You, You Could Be Mine, Sweet Child of Mine, Knocking on Heaven's Door, Bob Dylan cover, Out to Get Me, and then we got the first quote-unquote new GNR song, Madagascar, which once again, they played that at the 2002 VMAs. But right after Madagascar, they were like, you know what? Let's play another new song, Riyadh and the Bedouins. So this one's interesting to me for a few different reasons. They didn't play this at the Columbus show later in the year, but this is one that they would play here and there throughout this 2001-2002 tour. It's a song that I've never been a huge fan of in any respect. It had some controversy with Guns N' Roses, of all people, using copyrighted material. It's a little ironic. But the thing that I like about Riyadh and the Bedouins when it comes to the studio version is just Buckethead's guitar playing at the end of it. But as a whole, I've never been a huge fan of this song. And man, when it came down to this particular performance in fucking Pukkelpop, it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. And it was just kind of all over the place. The timing was not great. They didn't sound the best on it. And that's probably one of the reasons why it wasn't an absolute staple in these set lists. But regardless, it is still cool just to see them play it, because in Guns N' Roses history, it has not been played very many times. I don't know the exact number, but it has to be less than 10, I would assume. And it has not been played since this 2002 tour, I believe. I'm pretty sure. I'm like 95% sure. But yeah, Riyadh and the Bedouins. I want to jump in real quick I mentioned Axl's appearance. I wanted to talk about Dizzy's appearance. I don't think I did that enough in the last review. When it comes to Dizzy's appearance, I always just found it funny that it seemed like Dizzy would copy Axl's appearance kind of in this era. Like when they started the 2001 tour, Axl still had his straight hair and Dizzy had his straight hair. The next thing you know, Axl incorporated a few braids, then Dizzy incorporated a few braids. But by this Pukkelpop show, Axl had full-blown braids, and guess what? Dizzy had full-blown braids. So I always just found that humorous and funny. So I definitely wanted to talk about Dizzy's appearance a little bit more. So yeah, actually I'm looking at the stats right now. Riyadh was only played, it's only been played 6 times in its history. So yeah, let's move on here. Number 12, we got the Buckethead guitar solo. Absolutely one of the best moments of these Guns N' Roses concerts back in these days. I'm an absolute huge Buckethead fan, love him, and I just never gets old seeing these old clips of Buckethead with GNR, especially the solo spots. One thing I wanted to mention, this is like a personal note. When I was getting into Guns N' Roses heavily in the mid-2000s and figuring them out and just like really diving into their history, and I started learning about the new GNR portion of the band, at first I didn't like the new GNR, and I didn't take them seriously, and I just was not a fan. And me and my dad would talk about them a lot, and I was getting him into them as well, but he was kind of the same mindset. Like, he didn't I don't think he really liked the new GNR and didn't take them seriously. Same with me. But I will say, one of the moments that changed our perspective on the new GNR was back then watching this particular clip of Buckethead's guitar solo in Pukkelpop. I remember my dad was like, so blown away and so fascinated with this particular solo that Buckethead did. That sold him on Buckethead. And he was like, Jared, you don't understand. Like, if you were in the crowd, I'm getting goosebumps talking about this, but he was like, if you were in the crowd at this show, this would have been one of those moments where your mind was absolutely blown at how good this solo was and how clean it was and just how amazing overall it was. So the Buckethead Pukkelpop solo is very near and dear to my heart. So it was cool to go back and watch that again. Absolutely amazing guitar solo. All right, number 13, Chinese Democracy. Once again, I can't stress how good Axl's mid-range sounds during these years, especially on Chinese Democracy. But his voice in general, once again, very, very, very Mickey Mouse a lot of the time when it comes to the high notes. But he had a good amount of power. He definitely had a good amount of power. And his voice was just very different compared to the old days. Wasn't very raspy. It wasn't very growly. But I will say, like, once again, when it came to the mid-range on Chinese Democracy, very, very strong, sounded amazing, and it sounded, you know, similar, reminiscent of the old Axl. All right, so let's see here. What's next? We got November Rain. I thought Buckethead's outro guitar solo on November Rain was very notable. And then number 15, Street of Dreams, a.k.a. The Blues. I mentioned how in that Columbus concert, I didn't understand why they would do November Rain and then a few different songs and then do Street of Dreams if you're going to have to wheel the piano out 2 different times. Like, what a pain in the ass that would be. But in this concert, they did them back to back, which made more sense to me. And by the way, at the time, they were calling Street of Dreams The Blues. So then we have number 16, Patience. Number 17, Rocket Queen. And then number 18, Buckethead guitar solo again, and the Halloween theme. This was an interesting thing about this concert. No Robin Fink solo. I don't know why Robin Fink didn't do a solo. They ended up doing 2 Buckethead guitar solos in this one, but I'm not complaining. I love Robin Fink, and you know, I have nothing but respect for him, but I absolutely adore Buckethead, obviously. And I can't complain seeing 2 different Buckethead guitar solos. So then we have number 19, My Michelle. Number 20, Night Train. This is another notable moment of the concert for me. I would say this one was notable for a couple different reasons. One, Axl was so into this performance, and there was definitely some extended jamming, I thought, when it came to this particular performance. But the real funny thing that well, actually, before I get to that, when I say Axl was into it, he was just doing a lot of dancing, and he was just like singing higher in parts that he wouldn't normally sing in his higher register. You could just tell he was really, really into this performance. But now to the funny part of this performance, near the end, when Axl was saying "Take It" and giving it off to the band, his voice cracked really, really bad, and it just sounded funny. You know, nothing crazy, not a big deal. He's a professional. It's just a funny, notable moment for sure that I'll never forget. Got to be the worst voice crack that I can remember in Axl's history performing that I've heard. But yeah, the Night Train Pukkelpop performance is definitely funny when it came to that voice crack. Let's see. There was a moment late in the show where, and this is something that's interesting about these old bootlegs when fans are recording in the crowd. There was a fan that I could hear next to the camera that was complaining about how they went on late. And yeah, it's just funny from my perspective. Obviously, I wasn't there and I didn't have to wait. But of course, like, being in that situation, that must have been annoying and irritating, especially being at a festival. I've only been to one festival in my whole life, but man, it was a long day. And my feet were hurting, my back was hurting, and to wait, you know, I don't know how long they waited for GNR to come out, but for them to have to wait, you know, maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, who knows, for GNR to come out at a festival, I can only imagine the frustration. But it was interesting. Definitely heard a fan complain about that. And it's also interesting that Axl was still going on late at this time. You know, it definitely happened a lot back in the old days, but for the early 2000s, for it to still be happening, I just find it interesting. All right, and then the encore, number 21, Paradise City. They played for about, I don't know, hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, but it was a good show. I can't complain, and it was cool to just go back in time and relive it. So once again, it's on YouTube if you want to take a listen to it, watch it. So this particular video that I watched, the whole thing wasn't in video. There were some songs that were just the audio, so just know that going into it. Yeah, very, very interesting and fun concert, and I'm glad I got to go back and listen to it. So if you've seen the concert, what did you think? If you were there, what did you think? I was really blessed when it came to that Columbus, Ohio concert. I actually had someone comment how they were there and kind of give their experience. So I just thought it was really cool that just to read that and hear their thoughts and opinions on the things when it came to their experience there, actually being there, and for them just to kind of relive it, even though it was, over 2 decades later, and what they remembered and everything. So that was like the most gratifying part about doing that review on that Columbus, Ohio concert. So once again, if you were at this fucking Pukkelpop concert, let me know what you thought, and just in general, what do you think of this lineup of Guns N' Roses? I love it at this point, absolutely adore it once again, and it's a very interesting time for Guns N' Roses history, for sure, with the whole Chinese democracy era. Man, what a time. So overall, just please comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you all on the next one.